Yo, have you heard about Anchor? It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome, everyone, to the L7C Podcast NBA Playoff Edition. Today, we are going to be reviewing the first round of the NBA playoffs and previewing the second round of the NBA playoffs. We have our NBA aficionado with us, Mr. Evan Debo. How are you doing today, sir?
Good, Martin. I'm curious to find out how many folks are still with us after some major whiffs in the first round in terms of games. How long a series would go, award things. I mean, we got a few right in there, but this is not one for the history books.
I don't think we did as bad as you claim it to be. There were some major whiffs, but we were not the only ones who whiffed on some. I think it was a whole national thing that whiffed on a lot of these.
Yeah, I mean, there was there were some surprises. Not really a lot dictated by injury per se, but just it was interesting to see how some things unfolded. I mean, there were a couple things here and there where an injury made a series go an extra game or two, but by and large part, I mean, it wasn't like, hey, player X on this team was out and it completely flipped who we picked, but. Yeah, so we'll try to be better. That's how this whole prediction, take a shot piece goes. And we've got second round starting here any moment with the Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. Yeah. But first, Martin, let's recap and start in the West. Where do you want to start for first round?
I mean, Evan, we could start with your team, the Memphis Grizzlies, and my team, the Minnesota Timberwolves. We want to talk about prediction with. I do remember on the last podcast, I said this could go 6. You got to watch out for those T-Wolves, and you were not hearing it. You were seeing sweep.
Yeah, that was one of my whiffs. Memphis did pull it out. Memphis struggled a lot. I mean, that's a testament to again the grit and the fight of the Timberwolves. I think just defending Karl Anthony Towns, in their 2 wins in the series for Minnesota, he had over 30. And then, I mean, Ant-Man going nuts in his first playoff series. I mean, a lot of people are doing a lot of hot take, early Kobe vibes, everything else. It just was, a pesky team. Anthony Edwards averaged 25 a game in the series. Nevertheless, Memphis pulled itself out. A lot of moments in the series. Martin, we had Karl Anthony Towns famously in Game 5 on the road, telling the crowd to stay quiet when they were up with 8 minutes to go. They would go on to lose that game, and then they'd lose in 6 too. I mean, I like that. I mean, I'd hope maybe this could be a thing moving forward of somewhat of a Western Conference competitive rivalry. Obviously, Memphis is out on an island, kind of being so far east that only New Orleans is, that far over for a Western Conference team. But I mean, it was a great series.
Yeah, there were times where this series could have gone either way. If I do remember the last 3 games, Memphis came back from 10 down in the fourth quarter. And there were plenty of times Minnesota could have had the game, but they just did not know how to hold a lead. in the final minutes of the fourth quarter. Credited to being Karl Anthony Towns being in foul trouble, especially early in the series, where he had more fouls than field goal attempts at the first half of the series, to them just not closing, just idiotic basketball plays. Like Anthony Edwards is his first playoff series, and he did really well. But that game 5, going for the steal on Ja Morant, which just led him to just turn around and make a layup to win the game. If he fronts him, he might not have get that layup, and then who knows what happens in this series.
I love the competitive edge though of Anthony Edwards to say, I want this guy. Now, granted, it is what it is. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. He lost, he got bit, he lost bad there, but I love the want in him to want to take out or want to try to shut the water off in the final possession for the team's best player.
I was surprised they didn't have Pat Bev on him. I don't remember if he fouled out at that point in that game 5 or not, but Anthony Edwards, like you said, wanting to want, which is good on them. But it's interesting, man, because I don't know if it's more the Timberwolves just being super inexperienced and can't hold a lead, or more Memphis being young and inexperienced and letting Minnesota just jump ahead of them, because we're going to preview their next series, and they can't play like they did against Minnesota against Golden State. They just can't.
No. Martin, a couple other stat points I want to point out. So Desmond Bane was huge in this series. Shot 48% from 3, 23.5 for the series. Just phenomenal. Again, he was high up on my most improved radar. And Ja famously got the award, and then there was a video footage of him leaving on the counter saying, "Now this is for you, man." It just amazing the leap he's made. I mean, they needed everything of him. I mean, Ja averaged 21 and 10.5 assists for the series, but Martin, I'm going to throw a number out there. I mean, there to you. Does this surprise you when I say that Ja Morant shot, I believe, 38.5% for the series?
It would surprise me if I didn't watch the games. But since I watched all the games and was seeing it happen firsthand, it's like, man, this guy, I don't know what's going on. But throughout
he didn't have a good series, but that number shocks me, that it was that low.
Oh man. I mean, but it's one of those things where it's a testament to Memphis, though. Like you said, they have a crazy record without him. So with him even struggling, the people around him are just able to pull it out every time.
Yeah, so I mean, Minnesota heading the off season. I've already seen NBA Twitter. It's just so great at hot takes and everything else. Already talking about where they could trade Russell to. I think they need some more. I mean, they need some more bench help. I think they need some bench scoring. McLaughlin is a phenomenal find in terms of backup point. Really good facilitator. Liked what I saw out of him. Taurean Prince gave some good minutes in the series. Shout out former Cav Baylor product, who likes to explain what rebounds are. I love this. This is one of my favorite series. I think we thought that going in, and Memphis moves on. Martin, let's move to staying west. Let's move to the Phoenix Suns and the New Orleans Pelicans. So Pelicans, obviously a surprise, started as a 10 seed, worked their way in, won 2 games to make it into the playoffs. And they were pesky, Martin.
Yes, they were very, very pesky. We do have to point out that Devin Booker was out for a couple of games of this series, and New Orleans had it to a point where it was 2-2, if I remember. Yeah, it was 2-2 going into game 5, and Booker was trying to come back game 6 or whatnot. But Brandon Ingram, I just want to highlight, dude, man, 27
points a game,
27, 6 and 6. I know hindsight is 2020. Obviously, the Lakers have gotten one title. They got that in the bubble. But just seeing all the people they've traded, ball out in other places, the young talent, it's just man, if you could have kept someone like Brandon Ingram, seeing how he's matured, man. He is a top 30. I don't want to say like top 20. I would say maybe top 20 player in the league right now.
He's on the cusp. You're right.
So I just got a shout out to them. Obviously, to the young head coach over there in New Orleans. Like, he was just playing, like, I feel like a couple of years ago.
Willie Green, Martin.
Oh, yeah, Willie Green. But for me, man, it's all about the point guard, Chris freaking Paul. That final game to close him out, going perfect all over the place, probably one of the top closeout games I've seen in my lifetime.
NBA playoff record, 14 for 14 in that final game. They needed every bit of it. We'll touch base a little bit about Devin Booker in our second round preview here shortly in terms of how healthy he is. But I mean, they needed every ounce of Chris Paul, and he's not supposed to be doing that at age 37. And he just phenomenal from him. They needed perfection. They got perfection. And, again, I really like New Orleans. Obviously, just a lot of questions with, you had like prior to game 1 or game 2, you had Zion doing 360 dunk, but also looking like a defensive tackle. Like he's putting on some serious LBs, which are a concern. He's on the verge of, being able to be offered a max extension off his rookie deal. Who knows if they're going to give that to him, with the injury piece. But, we've seen enough flashes from him, right? That like when he's healthy and he plays, he's a bad dude. You add him into the mix. And selfishly for my Cavs, like, I really was like, man, like we could have got, I think, CJ McCollum for what New Orleans got for him, and the hometown kid. Obviously, he's a little bit further down the win now pipeline in terms of age, but CJ was huge in this series. All the way around. Larry Nance, great defensively. That's what we saw in Cleveland in shots when he wasn't injured. Really like New Orleans where they're going, but Phoenix advances as the number 1 seed, taking care of business.
I do want to say one thing on Zion, though. It just came out, I think, today or last night, saying that he wants to be in New Orleans going forward.
He said, I can't sign that contract fast enough or something along those lines. No crap. If somebody's offered me a $1 jillion, not really, but, hundreds of $1 million in a max contract, yes, obviously I have major apprehension if I'm David Griffith and the New Orleans Pelicans on giving that much money to a guy like that. There are ways to be creative, I think, with it. I'm trying to remember what contract was done recently. I don't know if it was Towns' extension or whose, but you can give the face value of the max, but it's really dependent on the player to meet certain criteria on games played, on minutes played, on making all-star teams, all those things. Like if Zion bets on himself, yes, here's the max. And I think that's probably the pathway to go if you're going to get sniff anywhere close to that. What do you think, Martin?
Yeah, I think that's the pathway you need to. I agree with what you need to do with him. I guess maybe it's just an old part of me. It just rubs me the wrong way how he couldn't play but could do 360 dunks. And it was also, he stated something like, if it would have went to game 7, he would have played, which irks me again because technically game 6 is your game 7 because if you don't win, you go home. So I don't know, man.
No, I'm right there with you. I struggle with that. How are you doing 350 dunks before a game and like putting out footage and film of you, doing some athletic feats, but you're not good enough to give it a go? If they had him and he could give them 15, 16 points a game, 10 boards, 2 blocks, smaller scale stuff, this could have gone 7. Easily. They could have maybe pulled an upset kind of thing. We just don't know where he's at physically. And that scares me if I'm ownership wanting to give him, just a blanket extension, afraid that he's going to deny it. And then 2 years he could walk kind of thing, or you're forced to trade him somewhere and hope somebody's willing to give you a return. But Martin, let's, so from one young up and coming phenom to another, let's talk Luka Magic and the Dallas Mavericks, who took out Utah.
Is it Luka magic or is it Brunson magic?
That's a good point. Jalen Brunson, 27.8 points per game. Did you see? I'm sure you did. Did you see that absolutely filthy crossover in the lane?
Yeah.
Just dropped the dude. I mean, like, that was lethal on a line. Like, Jalen Brunson has been amazing. That dude is going to get paid this summer big time.
Oh, his dad said they're not taking a discount.
I wouldn't either. Real quick, since we're talking about dad, back to Jaw. Did you see T. Morant this morning? They did a clip, I think it was maybe a day or two ago after the game. They asked him what he thought of his series, and he said trash.
I did not see that clip.
Jock quoted it. I saw the video clip, and Jock quoted it and goes, "See, guys, I'm telling you." Like, he's about how his dad, obviously is, somewhat sarcastic, but also knows his son can do better. And I thought that was funny. Shout out to two dads in that series, Cat's dad, but another instance of a dad here. We're not gonna take a discount. And Jalen Brunson absolutely balled out in the series. Utah again. You have a really, really good regular season for how long we've been saying this, Martin, 3-4 years, what have you, and then can't advance anywhere in the playoffs.
Well, Evan, it's been longer than that. It's even been longer than that because obviously 3-4 years of times of like recording, but fans have been saying this since the Darren Williams, Carlos Boozer times where they would have really good regular seasons and couldn't get it done in the playoffs. They really haven't done it in the playoffs since the late 90s.
Mitchell, 25, 7, 25, somewhere you got it. 25 and 5, 4 rebounds a game. But this is the end of Utah, man. It has to be, right?
Yeah.
I think it's the end for Quinn Snyder, who's going to be a really coveted coach. If I'm the Los Angeles Lakers, I'm waiting on Quinn Snyder to be available, and I'm giving him the job, not just saying, here you go, Mark Jackson, dig us a bigger hole if you're Sacramento, allegedly, who the Woj tweet yesterday on Saturday, based on days we're recording this, is apparently a front runner along with Mike Brown, maybe behind him Golden State Warriors assistant coach, former Cavs head coach. I love Quinn Snyder, how he runs offenses and stuff. I think it's been a personnel issue of sorts. And obviously too, go back to COVID. You can't have your two all-stars hate each other, and they hate each other. They absolutely hate each other. There's that stat, 2-3 weeks ago of, I think somebody on Reddit found together on like how many total passes Donovan Mitchell has given to Rudy Gobert, like over the course of the season. And it was like absolutely astounding. Or like what percentage of his assists went to him. Like they gotta blow it up, man. Like we saw with Portland this year. I think at a certain point, you hit a wall, you're not getting anywhere. You can like your players, you can like the individual production, but the goal is to win championships. And if you're in to win championships, I think this is the end of the Utah Jazz as we know it.
I think they're even more disappointing than Portland, because Portland in 2019, they reached their max potential. They made it to a Western Conference Finals and lost to the KD Warriors. And anyone like me, we've talked about, it's like that was the max they could get to. Maybe if they didn't have KD or whatever, they could have maybe gone a couple games, but Western Conference Final was the max. Utah never made it to that point. They were never like, oh, the Utah Jazz are 4 wins away from going to the NBA Finals. Even when I think it was it the COVID year where they were the number 1 seed, had a ridiculous like at home record or something crazy. But yeah, man, I agree. You get more if you get rid of Donovan, even though Donovan's your best player. It's going to be one of those things like, do they want to get more back, or do they want to continue building around Donovan and get rid of Gobert?
Yeah, what's the market for Gobert? Again, like I think I'll be honest. I think he got. I can't remember where he finished in the Defensive Player of the Year, which we both have Mark Smart for. But I think he deserved to be up there. And again, I felt bad. Again, it's voter atrophy. People don't like giving the best player in his position, however many he's still stout defensively. He's a problem. But, when you get in the playoffs, the issue is people will switch, find them, pull them out to the perimeter, and they'll dance on them or blow by, and it's just a different story versus regular season. He's just a defensive anchor back there, erasing bad individual defense from teammates. And it's such a reliable piece to have sitting behind you, just knowing you got that eraser back there. But I just don't know what the market is. I mean, the league centers are back. I think, and the Cavs again, have 3 7-footers. Look at, the Sixers. Look at, again, Memphis really struggled with Karl-Anthony Towns. Centers are back, but unless you've got a really big individual guy like an Embiid, like a Towns, like a Jokic, the league is really going towards those rim runners who can also shoot. And Gobert consistently cannot shoot and has shown no development to add a jumper. I just wonder what the market is. I mean, I think you get a big flashy return for Mitchell. There's going to be another player out there, Martin, who's, wants out somewhere, and Mitchell could be, what gets them to Utah.
2 things. One, I do want to go back because we did speak about John, his dad. And the 2 things on that is that was cool seeing Usher be side by side with John Morant's dad, since they say
which one was his dad?
That was funny. And the other one on that one is the dunk. How did you feel when you saw that dunk live?
Best playoff dunk I've ever seen in my life.
Okay. And now coming back
that was filthy.
Now coming back to Utah, I just want to say this out loud. Laker fans, unless you're trading the next 50 years of your life, you guys are not getting Donovan Mitchell. Let's just cut that out right now. I've already started to see it on NBA Twitter.
I was going to say, we're going to see it. We could get Donovan Mitchell.
When you're paying Russell Westbrook $44 million.
Yeah, cap's worth nothing.
Paying him $44 million. I think you're going to add another max type player. But all right, let's continue with the West. We had then Golden State against the Denver Nuggets. This one, I did say if Steph Curry does not play game 1 or doesn't play in this series, they're going to lose. Obviously, he played game 1. He played in the series. He came off the bench, which is a thing I respect a lot too, to get his legs back. And they cruised past the Nuggets. Obviously, the Nuggets were extremely shorthanded, and I was still hoping that Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr. could come back. They did not. Golden State won in 4-1. But I feel like, Evan, this wasn't even about Steph. This wasn't about the Splash Brothers. Wasn't about the Joker. This was about Mr. Poole, man. I think it's safe to say he has officially arrived.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely officially arrived. I actually think Jordan didn't have that great of a series, but I think you saw more of the full-on Golden State experience where Clay wasn't a complete killer in the series. I mean, he did average 22, Steph averaged 28, but you got enough from Wiggins, from Draymond on both sides of the ball. That strip on Jokic I sent you in the DMs on Twitter, just filthy backyard, 4th grade. I'm taking your lunchbox. Get over it. I mean, that was disgusting. Poke away. He's just a marvel to watch defensively. But I think it was more of that. Yeah, Poole's on the scene. He averaged 21. So I mean, they spread the wealth. I mean, you got 3 of your 5 starters averaging 20. I mean, that's tough. Again, it's just for the Nuggets. Just not having Murray, not having Porter Jr. It just was just outgunned. I mean, it is what it is. I'm excited to see those guys come back next year and see what else they can do, what other pieces they can add. But I mean, the Golden State experience is back and furious. I'm curious to see how they progress, and I think they've certainly got a good chance, coming into the second round here to make it to the West Finals and potentially the Finals again.
What did you think of Draymond's comments about some players? They're only built for the regular season, but when it comes to the playoffs, they are not really about this type of life. What did you think of those comments?
So on the surface, I mean, obviously you think it's directed towards Jokic, and maybe time will tell us that it is. I think if you look at it more broadly, and I'm trying to give Draymond the benefit of the doubt, which is crazy. I'm saying that, but look at what we just talked about with Utah. Absolutely, that quote stands true. If you look at, trying to remember some other teams that make it. I mean, who knows what we might see with the Hawks and Trae Young over time too. I mean, that could be another instance of that. I definitely think it's true, but obviously I felt like it's directed towards the Nuggets, who are outgunned, and it's easy to say, hey, when you've got all four wheels on the tire and you're cruising 75 miles an hour passing a car with one wheel and three flats, that you guys suck. But I'm trying to give Draymond the benefit of the doubt here.
I would also want to say, if it was to Jokic, dude did average 31 and 13 and 5 in the series. Just want to throw that out there. So he tried. He was just undermanned. If Jamal Murray and Michael Porter would have been playing, I think the Warriors still win, but it could have been, that series could still be going on. But what can you?
I think so, Martin. Last thing on the West of note, I just wanted to say before we flip it East real quick. Dallas Mavericks, the first playoff series win
since the finals
with new head coach Jason Kidd since the 2011 finals.
Yep, that's crazy.
Additionally, too, so I always cringe somewhat, but sometimes they're worth saying. It's I'm 50-50 on this when people start throwing out crazy names and short sample sizes. But Luka, through his first 16 career playoff games, is shooting 49%, averaging 32.9 and 8.8. The only player to average more points per game in playoff history on this pace, 0.7 away, is one Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Very small sample size. Luka's got a long way to go, but there's so many teams that want nothing to do with Luka Doncic, and he's 23. I'm excited to see how things go. Martin, let's go with a sweep we did get, switching east. The Brooklyn Nets.
The one no one expected.
No one expected that after the game one we saw. No one expected that. We're swept by a phenomenal defensive performance from the Boston Celtics, just masterful all the way across the board. You saw, Tatum go toe to toe against Durant, and I mean, really, really struggled. Offensively, Brooklyn just they did the two wing out thing with Kyrie and Durant, and your turn, my turn stuff, and and Bruce Brown doing that zone cutter piece in the lane and in the dunker spot, those kinds of things. But whether it was Claxton, they've been missing it. Sorely could have used Harris in this series in terms of just stretching the floor again, opening up the lane. But Boston had an answer for everything. They switched everything. You saw Horford on Durant. You saw Smart on Durant. You saw Tatum. You saw Brown. You saw, off the bench, you saw Grant Williams. They got Time Lord back the last two games. A huge eraser. I mean, he might have given Marcus a run for his money for Defensive Player of the Year if he'd have played a full season. So he's back. Boston just looked incredible. I mean, I think of any of the teams I saw, Martin, that played in the first round. I mean, if you could reseed the teams, would you put Boston first?
Yes.
I would too. Other thoughts on Nets, Celtics, anything in particular? I've seen Steve Nash take undeserved heat. Dude doesn't deserve. He's had however many starting lineups. They traded how many players throughout the season. He didn't have Kyrie. Let that man live.
So first I want to focus fully on Boston and then just talk about the Nets, because the Nets are obviously the biggest story. The way Boston played defense that whole series was just incredible. Kevin Durant is one of the greatest scorers of all time. And they made that dude look so uncomfortable the whole series. Like, it was just ridiculous. Game 4, it was inefficient, but he did have 30-plus points. But
38% from the field in the series.
But Effin, I'm starting to think this series was over after game 1. Like, with the way Kyrie went off, and then Boston, great ball movement. Tatum got that layup for the win. That was maybe Brooklyn's only chance. It's not the same stakes, but I'll compare it to when the NBA Finals, where LeBron had 50 and we had the J.R. Smith blunder. If the Cavs win that game, momentum's maybe different. If Boston would have won that game, if Brooklyn would have beat the Nets in that game 1 and Tatum doesn't make that game winner, maybe momentum's different. But ever since that game winner, those games, it's just, you never thought Boston was going to lose. There was never a point where Brooklyn's like, oh, they're going to finally win. It was just like, no, it was easy money for them. And kudos to them. Jason Tatum now has entered his name into the top 10 players in the league conversation. I saw people saying he's better than Kevin. I wouldn't go that far, but he's definitely in the top 10.
This could be a torch passing game looking back, but I think that, Kevin Durant's getting up there age wise. Obviously, slew of injuries over time, but we could be on our way to looking at that conversation more fully. I don't think we're there yet. Like you said, Tatum 29.5, 7.3 assists per game, 4.5 rebounds per game, shot 86.8% from the foul line, 42% from three. Was just masterful defensively against Durant. Just impressive. I'm really excited for the next round of Boston to see where they go.
So then, from the Brooklyn standpoint, do you want to go first?
Are you giving Kyrie money?
No. I might be in the minority. I'm not doing it. Nope, I cannot do it. You can't. As spectacular as he is, I know the world is
too much. He's just too much of a distraction, man. He's getting close to Terrell Owens if he was crazy injured. Like the off the court stuff, the stage in the locker room, I have care, I don't care, just everything. Like it's just amazing. Still a phenomenal basketball player, phenomenally skilled, can take over a game, but he can't be your second fiddle. I think he could be a great third fiddle if he's motivated. I don't think you can rely on him for 82 games in the playoffs.
Well,
in which case that exempts you out of max money for me.
There's another person who you can't rely on, and let's just get it over with. Benjamin Simmons. So we all know he's
coming back for game 10, Martin.
He's coming back for game 10. He was going to come back for game 3. No, yeah, he was going to come back for game 4, and then he said, oh, no, something's hurting my back. I'm not coming back. And then after the series, is like, oh, it was a mental thing that hurt his back. Dude hasn't played. It'll be a full 365 days. I'm just going to be honest, man. I am sick and freaking tired of the Ben Simmons story. I truly am. And this truly all started just because Doc Rivers was asked, do you think you can win a championship with Ben Simmons after they got bounced last year in the second round to the Atlanta Hawks because he passed up the no dunk heard around the world on a 5'9" Trae Young when he's 6'10", and his feelings were hurt. He didn't want to play for Philadelphia. He gets traded, doesn't play a game for the Nets, and here we are going in the offseason. I can't even say definitively if he'll come back for the opening season in October, but
listeners, if you get a chance, go listen to the Stephen A. Smith rant right after this game. It's just absolutely masterful, incredibly accurate for a guy who does a lot of hot takes, and he's there to sell clicks, to get retweets, and to say a bunch of stuff, way more tactfully than the Skip Baylesses and stuff of the world. But he was he was on his best game, which is a testament of here of Ben Simmons. Listen, guys, Ben Simmons quit on the Louisiana State Tigers. He quit on the Philadelphia 76ers. He's now, when the chips are down, quit on Brooklyn, who went out of their way to move on and invest in him from James Harden. I think the Nets are still gonna. They do not need to bend over backwards for Ben Simmons, but I think you're still going to see them, piling, working with his team, his agent. We get it. Just he probably would have been ready later on. We just didn't make it where we wanted. They're going to deflect a lot. They're going to give him the benefit of the doubt more than they need to, because they're trying to be the supportive new boyfriend type thing, new girlfriend type thing. But I don't think Ben deserves that. He doesn't deserve any more crutches. I think we could be spiraling towards like something where they just want to get rid of the dude, and we're talking 2 years from now. He hasn't played, or he's playing, he's disinterested, and somehow he ends up on, the Lakers need a Hail Mary, and he ends up there with LeBron or something if LeBron himself hasn't moved on. So I'm just throwing crazy stuff out there, but this is a crazy situation. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, the poster child of doesn't want to work of now what everyone's been memeing. And the one thing I truly agree, besides the quitting stuff with Stephen A on this, is Ben Simmons is going to have a lot of players pissed at him when that collective bargaining agreement, because the owners aren't having this again. No way. No way. Like, it's going to be, you pay. If you don't play, you are not getting paid. Like, there's going to be pay to play. Yeah. Even they called it the Ben Simmons rule. And I 100% agree. Like, if I'm in a position where I'm paying you millions of dollars, but you're not even on the court and you're dressing like it's some Fashion Nova concert, no.
And he's contesting Martin lost wages for not paying
$20 million
a single game, not playing a single game for 2 different teams this year. Just a joke, like, in terms of, like, it's one of those things that puts society on par again with the high level, high stakes basketball world, of only X amount of people in the world get to play professional basketball, so they command a certain salary, but at a certain point there are some common expectations of, if you want paid, you show up to work. Ben Simmons does not show up to work, and you're right. When they redo the CBA, like, there will be a Ben Simmons clause over this, where owners aren't going to want to go through this. Like, I see this is going to be something that's not settled inside the NBA in terms of his, what I can get, what I can't. I mean, money buys some really good lawyers. I think this will be settled outside. You'll see, U.S. District Court or whatever appeals rules in favor or against Ben Simmons trying to collect this money again from his employer. Like, it's a disaster all the way around. Just amazing to watch this unfold. I'm tired of it, though, at the same time. But Martin, one thing I'm not tired of watching is the Milwaukee Bucks, the defending champ.
Yeah, I mean,
you saw Giannis, you saw Middleton out, nursing a knee injury sustained, and despite that, they were able to put away, the fledgling Chicago Bulls. I mean, from being the 1 seed close to the All-Star break, or at the All-Star break, I can't remember, but to where they were, I think they ended up going like 13-29. I'm just throwing numbers out there that I know are not too far off. Can't remember the exact win-loss off the top of my head, but the first game or two, DeRozan, just atrocious game. I'm not going to have that again, kind of thing. And I mean, he ended up pulling back a little bit better in the series, but just the length of Milwaukee, the depth. Martin, so like in lieu of Chris Middleton, it was the Grayson Allen show off the bench, man. He was phenomenal.
Yes, he was. He was, as much as I hate all Duke Blue Devils to a certain extent, he was really good.
I just hate Duke Blue Devils who routinely play dirty and trip people. But
yeah, but he was phenomenal. This series, though, We did call this right in 5. I said Chicago was going to win game 3 at home. I was one off. They actually won game 2 in Milwaukee, but we called this one good. So, we have to pat ourselves on the back. We said it wouldn't go past 5.
Yeah, I mean, so that sets up. We'll get to the preview here shortly. That sets up what I think is going to be a phenomenal series between Milwaukee and Boston that's going on live. I've been trying no spoilers if you got that up on another TV. Mm-hmm. I've been trying to. I'll fast forward and get caught up here when we're done recording. But I think the winner of this second round matchup here, Martin's going to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I do agree. Even though we'll get to the other preview, who I really do like the Miami Heat, but I just don't think they'll have. Not
to do disservice to Milwaukee. I mean, again, we did the touch points. I think I like the depth. I like Portis. I like Grayson Allen. Pat Connaughton. They've got some extra help, I think, this year to already a championship level team from last year. I don't want to do disservice by jumping into the Heat real quick, but one, for the sake of time, and then two, again, it just, hey, sometimes you do a good job. There's not a whole lot more to say, in terms of how that series went. But let's jump over to the Heat and Hawks. Hawks were able to steal a game. Miami takes this in 5. Martin, what did you see out of the Heat? Who finished the regular season the number 1 seed in the East?
Stifling defense on Trey. Stifling freaking defense. That man who did beat the Cavs to get that final play-in spot. Unfortunately, it was tough. If we had all of our horses, it would have been a different story. But Trey Young, man, this is a dude who's a 20-plus scorer per game in his sleep, averaged 15, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. His shooting percentages were not good at all. They just put him on the cuffs, man. I don't even remember the game. They won game 3. Okay, they won that by 1 point. I was like, what game did they even win? And my other thing is just that from going from someone like Ben Simmons, who now doesn't come to work, doesn't play hard, all of that, to a guy who epitomizes that. Jimmy Butler makes every team he has gone to significantly better. And he's not.
Jimmy Butler was possessed.
He's not a superstar. He's not like someone you're going to marquee and put all this up. But dude averaged 37 and 5 in this series. Obviously, in the bubble, they went to the NBA Finals. Obviously, when he was on the Sixers, when he left, there was a time where they couldn't do anything. If Jimmy Butler was still on the Sixers, that would be a title favorite right now. He elevated Minnesota for a bit when he was there. Obviously, no stuff in Chicago. He's my type of player, man. Just doesn't cause problems, plays hard. The Miami Heat have winning culture from Spoelstra to Riley on down. I do like the Miami Heat team a lot. And Atlanta was just no match for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the defense they did on the Hawks, the number they did on them. I mean, if you can hold Trey Young to 15 points a game through a 5-game playoff series, even with the dude gets, at the very least, the dude gets to the line, can get to the line, between 8 and 12 times a game, like to get his points if he's, chucking and missing. Like, they didn't foul either, like, to inflate his stats. Like, it just, I think it was a facilitation issue, obviously a talent disparity. Miami shoots the ball well. I mean, Jimmy Butler he just kind of has been a stable offensive piece, but he just exploded in this series. The 43% 3-point stuff, in addition to the defense, really stood out to me. They had Vic Oladipo in 2 games. He's on the comeback. It'll be interesting to see how they continue to get him involved. You saw Max Strus, coming in, Duncan Robinson. Just the 3-point specialists they have available, Martin. Just, it's lethal. When they're on, and that's been their MO. Since they made the finals a couple years ago in the bubble. Martin, any other thoughts on the series before we go north of the border and to the Victory Bell, the Victory Bell?
Only thing, sorry, it wasn't the Cavs in this spot.
I know, but So consolation prize again. I'm very vested in 2 weeks from Tuesday night, the NBA draft lottery. The Cavs are too good of a team to be with really the other teams, but they are, and just how this weird playing format goes. So, you have a 9 and a 10 seed advancing, through, and now we get to keep our pick from the Karis LeVert trade. We've got, chances are, that 14 pick never moves. So you're looking right where there could be, the Kansas, you got a lot of wing options there. And let's get the home state kid, man. Malachi Branham all the way. Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary, we got the pipeline. It ain't broke. Let's get it. Let's grab him if he's there. So I'm excited for that. There's a 0.0001% chance to move up to get a higher pick. But I think there's some really good wings. I think there's a really, deep draft where you can find some talent there. Historically, you've seen, Giannis draft, where he's in the teams. There's quality folks to be found, and it's just, you got to put your talent and stuff in there. So there's my 30-second Cavs spiel. But let's shift over to Sixers and Raptors.
Yeah, let's go to the border, and this series was Sixers winning 6. And when you hear that out loud, you're just like, okay, competitive series. Philadelphia was up 3 games, 2-0. Game 3 obviously was a Joel Embiid game-winning shot in overtime. So when you hear Philadelphia 1-6, but they were up 3-0, Evan, I'm not going to lie, man. I was getting very nervous for Doc and the boys. I thought they were going to be the first team in NBA history to blow a 3-0 lead, as Doc Rivers has blown 3-1 leads multiple times in the playoffs throughout, I think it's different eras too. That's my biggest thing. And obviously Joel Embiid now getting hurt and how that's going to affect the next series. And James Harden really not being James Harden and all. But were you at all sitting there thinking like, oh, they might blow a 3-0 lead if they don't win game 6?
So I led off the pod talking about, we really didn't see a major star being lost, that really swung a series another way to create an upset. But we were almost there. Joel's had the hand issue that he's going to have surgery on in the offseason. He's gritting through the pain. And then, again, they ended up playing an extra game. They got dogged by Toronto, in a game that, hey, if you take care of business, you're not even in the spot where, Joel's in for the second part. He's not traveling. They just announced the last hour to Miami for the first 2 games. So he's out indefinitely right now with another orbital fracture. So we're going to see the mass back on Joel. And, he had a concussion too. So who knows what his timetable is? It does not look pretty. And we're well past James Harden putting a team on his back and going to town with a bunch of shooters. Like it ain't going to happen. I think Miami's advancing, but this could be a quick series that way too. It's just, tougher. Tougher for Philly with Joel and the kind of MVP season he's had. He clearly wasn't the same. He still put up points, 26 in the 6th game. But, again, kudos to Toronto. Their switchy wings they have. Throw a number of bodies. Siakam was great. Fred VanVleet kind of tailed off a little bit, but he got injured too and left. I think game 4. Scotty Barnes is banged up too. Again, I think the Raptors have a formula going. I think now they had a heck of a turnaround, for an awful start to get back in the playoff picture. But you're right. This could have easily gone if Joel didn't end up getting through and playing. This easily could have been a flip from a 3-0 to a 4-3.
And I also do want to say, with the Raptors, no issue with dude, but huge recency bias. Scotty Barnes was not the rookie of the year. Not even being biased, it should have been Evan Mobley.
He doesn't play defense. Nobody affects the game defensively like him. Everybody just looks at the points. They compare all the candidates up, and they say, "Hey, you scored a bunch of points, yada yada yada." He averaged more points, is what I mean to say, than him. And people say, "Well, he's just that much better." It was as close, I think, of a vote as it's ever been since they started this Rookie of the Year format, I think. But this new format. But yeah, I'm with you. Just severely disappointed. Sorry, Toronto.
But that's really all I have to say on them on a conservative of time to make sure we are within our time constraints. I don't have much to say about Philadelphia anymore besides previewing their next matchup.
Well, let's do exactly that. So, Martin, it sounds like from how we discussed how the first round went here at length, I think we both have Miami over Philly.
Yes.
Did you have this in 4, 5, 6, or 7 Heat?
So it came out today at time of recording that Joel Embiid could be back as early as game 3. Obviously, you take those with a grain of salt. But I have this. If he doesn't come back, I have this over in 5. I do. I have Miami in 5.
I got Miami in 5 as well. I just think just way too many dudes can just get white hot from behind the arc. The defense is phenomenal, like we know a Coach Spo team to be. And injuries are just the ultimate killer, right? I think this could have been a much more competitive series. And it could have been one that were 6 or 7 if Joel was fully healthy. But it's just tough. And we haven't seen enough good things out of James Harden for me to say anything other than 5. So I mean, don't throw out sweep, but I said sweep a lot last pod, and I was wrong. So 5 on this one.
James could change his legacy, though. He could change his legacy if he pulls this out. His whole narrative will change if he could do it.
And I could find $500 laying in my driveway. I could find $500 in my driveway. I ain't gonna find it, Martin.
Fair enough.
I don't think James Harden's gonna change his legacy here. All right, so I already kind of laid the train track before the train here. I think this is going to determine who goes, much like Brooklyn and Milwaukee last year. I think this is the round. I think this is the series that determines who's coming out of the Eastern Conference. And you're right. The Miami Heat will have much to say about this in a potential East Finals matchup. But Martin, I'm so excited. I can't wait to get caught up here after we hang up. There's just so many nuanced pieces here of, how does you've got Drew Holiday is he's definitely declining a little bit, but phenomenal defensive guard against the big wings of Boston. You got the same piece of Boston and Marcus Smart, the other way. Just such a great defensive unit there. But obviously you got a lot more size and you got a lot more depth. I think in a vacuum, Boston decided to come out and execute. They did a phenomenal job against Brooklyn. But I mean, the defensive game plan was, let's let Kyrie and Kevin shoot themselves into oblivion, because we really know that the other 3 folks on the court, whoever they're going to be, aren't going to be great. And in a vacuum too, like that makes you look really, really good when you've got 2 guys to defend. I mean, they got a lot more to defend now. Chris Middleton's knee health concerns me a little bit in terms of, how healthy he'll be able to be. This one's tough for me, Martin. It's tough. I don't know. I think for sure, I feel like this has to be a 6 or 7 game series, minimum, on the 6th side. I'm just going to say 7. I think it's complete. I think it's a complete toss up. I'm giving recency bias to the defending champs and say, I'm going to take Milwaukee in 7. I'm not confident about it because Boston's balling out right now. Martin, what do you think?
Without Chris, I don't think Milwaukee can beat Boston. And I think it's recency bias for me just because of what I just saw Milwaukee do to a person you and I have said is one of the top 2-3 best players in the NBA and how they just made him look like he was not one of those people. Obviously, I feel like Boston is going to implement what Kawhi and them did in 2019 with Giannis, and Jason will be on. Giannis will throw bodies. They'll do the wall. I just feel like without Chris, I don't think they can beat Boston in home court. That means game 7 would be in TD Garden. And I just don't, but I think Boston in 7.
I like that we're going with two different teams here. Yeah, I mean it's tough for me. I think it's splitting hairs. That obviously the Milton piece does not bode well for Milwaukee. There's going to be a lot that they would lose. If he's not able to play. But I think it's going to be the best series we've got here in the second round. I think there's potential in the Golden State Memphis matchup too. So let's switch over to the West. So recapping, we both have the Heat in 5. How many games did you say for Milwaukee, Boston?
Boston in 7.
Boston 7. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think both teams are capable of taking it in 6. Just depending on how things go. But that's going to be a great series. So Golden State and Memphis. This one's equally tough for me. I think it goes. I'm going to say it's going to go 7. I think this is definitely more of Memphis's matchup. Not having the size. So I did some digging, Martin, on this, and I went back and looked. So I think you can throw out. So Memphis took the season series 3-1 over Golden State. The last game, complete blowout. It was 123-98. I think we can take that off the board. Why I think this is going to go 7. So if you look at the other 3 games, and so which would be Memphis takes it 2-1. They're all close. One of them kept one in overtime. If you add up all the scores, it was only Memphis +3 in the 3 other games. So why I take the blowout out, I do need to say too. So there was no Curry in that game. There was no Klay Thompson in that game. They didn't have all their horses. I think obviously you're going to see a way different Golden State team. I think Golden State's firing on all cylinders. It's tough for me. I'm going to stick with my outlier Memphis Grizz, even though I think things are definitely trending Golden State's way. I'm going to say Memphis in 7.
So I was thinking too when they played Minnesota that Memphis is a young team, so they maybe were playing to the level of their competition. But now with the Warriors coming in, this is a team that's been to multiple NBA finals, have won multiple titles. If you think about it in this standpoint, if the Golden State Warriors win a title this year, Steph Curry would have 4 championships. And this is a guy, for people who know like the 20 MVP Steph Curry, the beginning of his career, he was out a lot of games because of ankle injuries. So just imagine if he would have stayed healthy and all the stuff they would have had. I do like Memphis. That's the thing. I don't want to sound like I don't like Memphis. I like Memphis a lot. I like John Morant. I like the team and all of that. But I just feel like the tone is going to be set this game 1. And Memphis has home court. I think Golden State has to finish this in 6. So I'm going to take Golden State in 6.
Ooh. So, all right. So we've got, I think the two toughest series. I think we both got obviously different picks. Again, I definitely think things are trending Golden State's way. Memphis is clearly the dog I want across any team. I think to keep going, they remind me a lot of where they're at now. Just kind of gets me thinking of like where the Cavs could be in 3 years. Continuing their ascension too. But yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely trending in a really good way towards Golden State. So I'm all but saying I do expect Golden State to win, but I'm not picking them. So Martin, let's go to our last series here. Phoenix Suns and the Dallas Lucas.
And Brunson.
and Brunson. Martin, like I think this is going 6. potentially 7-2. I think I'm going to give Phoenix the edge, but I am going to, let me do that. I'm going to take Phoenix in 6, but I do not feel comfortable or confident in it. I still think some of the deep-seated issues from last year are the same case with Phoenix, that, I just don't feel like they have the depth. Not that necessarily Dallas does, but I mean, any given night that can trip you up, and especially depth is an issue when you don't know what Devin Booker is. So the Suns were fined. I fined $25,000 yesterday for not disclosing an appropriate amount of time prior to the game that Booker was going to play. And when we say play, Martin, he logged 32 minutes and only had 13 points. He did not look good. I know he was all, grinning ear to ear post game. They're wearing the FJ Crowder shirts, which, I mean, just say the full thing. I agree. I still don't like Jay Crowder. But I'm picking the Suns in 6. I'm really worried about Booker's health. And then I think both teams are equal on the lack of depth side of things. And if it's 2 stars versus 2 stars, obviously the score of all scores, is Luka in my eyes, with Devin close to a 1B. But if Devin's, not anywhere near the Devin we know, and by all accounts, like the last showing I've seen isn't it, I'm really worried for the Suns. I'm still going to pick, Phoenix with the experience and everything else, but I don't feel good about it.
Yeah, this one is tough just because we don't know, like, if Devin's going to, because before Devin got hurt, he was cooking the Pelicans. Like, he was on fire. And then obviously with Chris Paul's final performance, but the way the Mavs play, I think we said at the beginning of the year too, and like in the playoffs, Mavs are a very sneaky team. They're a team you don't want to play against. Ever since they got rid of Porzingis, they've just been trending upward. But look, man, just like you are with Memphis, with the Phoenix Suns since last year, I like this team, so I'm taking the Suns. I'm taking the same amount of games as you. Suns in 6. Won't be surprised if Dallas actually wins with the upset, just because of how we don't know how injured Devin really is still. But I got to take the L7C Suns in 6.
All right, so we're in agreement there. We're in agreement on 2 of our series, so we'll see who's right on the other 2, and go from there. So, Martin, anything else as we wrap up? Obviously, the awards were released. All by 4. We have no MVP, correct?
No MVP yet. Last thing we got was most improved and rookie
that
of the
was
year.
Surprising to me. Again, Jordan Poole wasn't even a top 3 finalist. I don't even think he was the most improved on his own team. Like, that's why Ja gave it to Desmond Bane. Like, perplexing. Obviously, we talked about rookie of the year issues, coach of the year we agree with. Defensive player of the year, we both said Marcus Smart. For love of everything, man, if we're going to make like a higher level of, if we're going to place a high level of emphasis on, having former ex-players like Vince Carter and, some of these other folks come back, can we not like just roll in a TV from the IT shop and have like Zoom? Like, let's do it in person. Like, I know that the Celtics end up doing that with the presentation to Smart, but like, do we have to Zoom people? Like, if it's going to be a thing, just do it in its full. So that's my one petty gripe, but we'll see. I think you said Joker and I said Embiid for MVP, so we shall see.
Yeah, I think you're gonna get that one. But the only other thing I want to add is obviously Boston and Milwaukee are going on right now at time of recording, and then right after that is Golden State and Memphis. The 2 series that we disagree on are back-to-back on a Sunday afternoon. You can't ask for anything better than that. And on a sadder note, Gigi Bryant would have been 16 years old today if not for the accident. So just want to say happy birthday. And I know that the first day of May will always hurt the Bryant family because of that. So just wanted to pay some respects in that regard.
Absolutely, Martin. It continues to haunt our memory of basketball, of where we knew both were going to continue to leave their mark, on the sport in their own right. And, again, just I think we all remember everybody remembers where they were when they read that tweet, saw the news, and, everything else that's come from it since. So just horrendous accident. Still can't believe it on both accounts. But basketball is better for, the time that we did have them on the third. So.
And then with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. NBA, man, we're in the conference semis. There's a lot of good series on there. Make sure you watch them to remind us what we got right, what we got wrong. We'll be back to review the second round and preview the conference finals. And by that time, we may have MVP. I don't know, but hopefully. And with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to L7C podcast. Signing out.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.